This is Wade Metters.
This is Kevin Mind, and you're listening to Label Cloud, the podcast about how your favorite music is made.
Welcome to track 2 of our interview with Micah Jackson. He is the co-founder of the record label Visionary Noise, For the Community Music Festival, and Houston Freethinkers. For this track, we talked to Micah about where he sees For the Community going in the future and get his take on the Houston Sound Ordinance. So without further delay, here is the second part of our 2-part interview with Micah Jackson.
So I guess now that we're For the Community is this growing thing, and it seems like every time it's a little bit bigger and a little bit better. So we kind of wanted to ask you about what do you think it could be?
I really appreciate that question because I always like to look forward. I don't. Where's it going? Ideally, we have to have that imagination to move forward. Ideally, it ends up stretching all across and absorbing Walters and House of Creeps and everything in that area, and advancing what the art community in that area and what House of Creeps and these places are doing, as part of what it is. Because they are a part of the community, and one of the things with For the Community is serving the artists, getting them promo on the radio, getting them out there. We brought the Delay in the Universal Loop, who I think is an amazing producer from Italy, through before, and we've brought Otonana Trio from Japan through before, and I think
I just want to stop and give a shout out because that's an awesome band. And it's so great.
They are the number one band we're asked to bring back. And, someone like me doesn't miss when they're asked to bring bands back.
Right. And, I mean, that's from Japan.
And it's so crazy because I'd like to think I studied philosophy in grad school, so I think I'm this deep guy, or whatever, every once in a while when I'm being egotistical, Mm-hmm. And they're such a fun band, and everyone's jumping, and I'm jumping too. But that's the important thing about, music is it can move you in that way. And, I love their song Life's Awesome. That just says it all. But thanks for shouting them out. They're good people, and it makes me happy. But what do I think it can do? I think it can serve the artist. I think it can grow. I think it should merit more sponsors. It's that's a process. We've had some pleasant sponsors.
Let's talk a little bit about there are other festivals around. Like there's Free Press Summerfest, which has turned into just a gargantuan festival, and I remember the first one I went to was the second one, and it was still a pretty.
Still had some of that spirit.
It was still a pretty local show, and most of the bands were from Houston. They'd bring some people.
There's something about that's exciting.
But it turned into something to where, and I love Free Press Summerfest. I think it's great for our city. But it has turned into much more of just a regular national level festival to where they're just bringing the biggest artists of the day to do this big party in Houston.
Certainly, you're right.
So
and it's beautiful, but it's also its own thing.
So talk about For the Community. Is For the Community going to continue being a Houston show, or do you want to bring more in?
We want to bring more in. Well, I think we'd get to the point where 25% of the acts or so, and if you're talking about grabbing more stages, and we're at 70 acts or so now, if we could grab just a little bit more stages, we could bring in more acts that everybody that is bands and performers that have played numerous ones. We can ask them who, and we do ask them who would they like to play with to make it more palatable and more pleasant for them. And we want these people so that the media...
So you want to talk to the artists and say, hey, who do you want to play with?
Yeah, they're part of the community, they're only part. But they're a significant part, and they've empowered us to make this product. So thank them all. But the thing is, I want to find out, they got insights in music I don't have, because they're all listening to all these different genres on the constant. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm only one man, and there are all these different artists. And so when they give input, we reach out to those acts, and they give us a number, and it goes in the database, And when we think we are near it, we can call them back and say, last time you told us 4K. We got 2,500 and some radio interviews, and, you know, what can we do? You know, it's all wiggle room. And so yeah, I want to bring in the big acts. I want to bring in the biggest acts that the Summerfest brings in, but we're not there to be able to afford that. But at the same time, I mean, I'd love to do that. That's the goal. That's the goal, and like I said,
so tell us a little bit more about
of the regional/local acts. You know.
Well, I got a question. So it actually reminds me of, although I was like a baby at the time when that happened, but when South by Southwest got started, it was a bunch of little punk bands from Austin that just wanted to have their own music scene amongst all these different amongst all these music venues in Austin. Then it kind of grew gradually until it became this.
You know, I think we had the potential to have something like this already in Houston back at the Houston. In the really old days, it was the Westheimer Colony Arts Fest, then it became West Fest. But obviously, that kind of got shut down by the moral police, you know, and I don't think the city recognized what an economic hit they took by cutting off the heads of things that were cultivating industry in the city itself.
You know? I don't think it ever does that. That's one of the this seems to be one of the issues with that kind of Houston music scenes. It kind of cuts off its own nose to spite its face.
Well, moving downtown really helped us. There's really nobody trying to sleep.
Yeah,
downtown. So we are out of the sound problems, and other than parking, it's pretty smooth.
Yeah. But
you did mention like House of Creeps and Walters, and you're at Easttown, so that little area. And for people who don't know, it's a little neighborhood.
They call the Warehouse District.
Yeah, the Warehouse District, right outside of downtown, and it's basically there's a lot of artists there. There's studios, there's small businesses, and it's kind of out of the way. So like you said, no one's trying to sleep.
There's parking under the freeway, you know.
So how did you wind up there?
Well, if you want to, there were multiple reasons. There's an event called Art Crawl that brings a lot of artists, and we've always had a lot of artists. Why not plop down right in the middle of that and cross-pollinate a little bit more? And obviously it took us a while to manage to get the stars lined up to where we landed on the same days, but when that happened, it was even bigger than ever. And so that's one of the reasons I went there. The other reason, like I said, is no sound complaints. Those were why the cops came every single time. And look, if this is a problem, I mean, I was spending money all the time for a sound permit, et cetera, just so I likened it to a wicker shield. The sound permit took it back to like it was before the noise ordinance. It forced them to have to measure the sound because I had it approved to a certain level. So they would have to prove that it was beyond it. And by that time, they'd already come and showed themselves. So that's why I say it's a wicker shield. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're shutting down the sound. And, I mean, I'm not taking hundreds of dollars ticket.
Because like you're not like the first person in the Houston music scene to talk about having me shut down because of sound horns.
Like no, man! Like I said, man, venue owners were having to leave. Fitz was getting raided regularly. Avant got, even to this day, Mariano running around a show shutting them windows. I mean,
I was at a.
It's serious. I mean, you can't. No, it's serious. It was much more serious than it was used arbitrarily to like just come in and shut down shows.
Yeah.
So a lot of people suffered from it. And I think what I said and what I was trying to get to, and I probably didn't say, is that it was kind of at the height of people being sick of that. Mm-hmm. That it came to them pulling shotguns on a crowd. And regardless of whether it's directly related or not, the sentiment's still there. The ripple went across the pond of Houston. Mm-hmm. And it gave us that one unifying moment that we had that I then turned into that product as best, not myself alone, obviously, but the best I could, But hell no, I'm not the only person that's been affected by that. I'm sure countless bands, and it's just the doorway for them to come and mess with you more, that's how all that stuff is. So, yeah, you're right, yeah. I mean, like I said, Fitz suffered a lot from it, and I know even little locales like, and part of it is the changes in the city, houses behind things and just the no zoning, which is I typically favor, but someone's trying to sleep.
Mm-hmm. And that obviously Mike is speaking about the fact that Houston lacks any zoning laws, so we just kind of have a clusterfuck.
Yeah, and honestly,
houses and businesses.
A big part of me likes that, but the other part of me gets frustrated with the venues and being stuck in a situation where I have to be concerned about that. So, like I said, I go to the Warehouse District because it seems to be the least infested.
So is that how, I mean, it seems like that might be why, just based on what you're saying, that might be why the music scene started popping up in the warehouse district and getting really big, because people weren't calling the cops on them.
Yeah, I mean, there was an opening.
Yeah.
You know, the water goes to least resistance, you know. It's like I started hosting shows at non-venues when Fitz and Mangoes and a bunch of venues were closing down. I'm like, okay, well, you're a restaurant, but what do you do upstairs? Meetings. I want to have meetings.
And so you're kind of already talking about this, but I want to push it a little further. So, you know, the next question is, what kind of compromises or sacrifices or even trade-offs have you had to make in order to maintain and grow your vision for the community? And you talk about noise complaints, so you have to move to this place. So
yeah.
What other kinds of kind of trade-offs have you had?
I told you in the beginning we brought a lot of alcohol, right? You know, well, after the second one we felt it was kind of disrespectful. So we kind of quit having Drunken Fest, and we had kegs donated to us and everything from breweries, of course, because they'll sponsor anything. And you know, we reserved them for the VIPs, the bands, and the people working the event to make it, you know, better for everyone else. And we figured if we're giving a free event, that's enough. They don't need thousands of Jello shots. That's some compromise, you know. I've had financial hits from it. I've had collapse, physical, like just pushing it before an event. So far, putting flyers in hands every single night for like a month beforehand, that when For the Community finally happens, and then you're running around the whole time. Even, you know, it used to be Derek and I would run the whole show. We have a good crew now, but Derek and I would run the whole show, and you'd just be, even now I'm running the whole time because maybe I'm a control freak or something, I don't know. But, you know, I got to know what's happening, and if I'm okay with those three or the next acts and they're there, cool, then what's happening over there, you know, because if anything goes awry, you know, someone's got to make a decision. And, you know, so there's been a lot of money lost, there's been a lot of time lost, there's been the, I've received grief from friends over it, you know, given so much to it.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
You know, depending who hears this, it's a bit much. I've had girlfriends that tell me that I had no time for anything but myself, you know, and things like that, to try to get under my skin with the love that I was giving to this event, you know. And I get it, you know, but it was just poor expression on their behalf rather than saying I want more time, you know what I mean? But it sounds like, I mean, a lot of what's keeping this going is that you really believe that this is something that... Not just myself, but... I do charge for it. Derek does a lot, and a lot of people love For the Community, as you said, you know. They're asking us when it's next, you know, and it's like, we always got to have that answer, you know, because what are you going to do? It's like a musician after a while when they keep wanting to hear new stuff from you, you know. So each For the Community, we try to craft it into its own experience, and it's our little chance of aiding the creative process, you know.
Alright, so for this episode we actually have two songs. The first one is from Daze, which is one of the biggest bands to come out of Houston in the past few years, and they also played the first For the Community. And the second song is from a Japanese band called Otonana Trio, which, as we mentioned in the podcast, is one of the most requested bands to come back to For the Community. And if you haven't seen them live, they're just a really fun band to watch, so I'd highly recommend it. So without further delay, here is Misanthropic Drunken Loner by Daze, followed by Life is Awesome by Otonana Trio.
My breakfast was straight out the medicine cabinet, a remedy for the aftermath of my habits. Sometimes it's the ones who try to help that hurt the most. I feel like we're playing tug of war on the rope, and I'm stretched to the limit, but you keep on pulling in. I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. I'm gonna lose my mind.
Try to
call me antisocial, call it masturbation. Either way, it's a solo operation. I'm just far more comfortable. Call me antisocial, call it masturbation. Either way, it's a solo operation. I'm just far more comfortable. Cause people are ugly and people are hateful, destructive and greedy. We're proud and ungrateful. The world would be so much better off without us. Swallow a polar apple of hell. Combos and training, this great love to hell. Distract ourselves to make us feel like we're not just mistakes. Distract ourselves to make us feel like we're not just mistakes. It seems that everybody always has a bone to pick, a promise to break. Never again will I make the mistake of trusting anyone. Trusting anyone. Trusting anyone. This is my misanthropic confession. Human beings are a waste of breath and I exclude myself, I'm an asshole just like you. Cause people are ugly and people are hateful, destructive and greedy. We're proud and ungrateful. The world would be so much better off without us. Let's swallow a blower, apple of hell. Raw compost and training, this great love to fill. Distract ourselves to make us feel like we're not just mistakes. Distract ourselves to make us feel like we're not just mistakes. My breakfast is straight out the medicine cabinet.
awesome.